On the website, I have put the CMS assessment and the CMS assessment key, the review and the review key, and you got all the stuff from the entire unit. There's no reason not to be prepared. Hunter? I put it on about 6 this morning, I think. This morning I got up at 4:15. Yeah. Yeah, you report here on Tuesday. Do what? The basketball kids? There were only like 4 of them. No, the other 28 were in the hallways because it was raining when they started running clubs, so they ended up running in the hallways, which is a complete disaster. So anyway, so here we go. So let's get through the warm-up. I'm then only going to give you about probably 6 or 7 minutes to compare your answers with the answer key, and then I want to go through the review. Okay? Because I want everyone who really doesn't get it to understand how to work some of those problems. Says on number 1, it says find the product, which means we're simply distributing the coefficient to each of the 3 terms. Now we have 3 terms inside the parentheses. After you distribute, how many terms should you have? 3. And if they are not like terms when you start, which that is a term, that's a different term, and that's a different term, then they will not be like terms when you are done, and you cannot add or subtract them. You cannot add or subtract them. So then it's just multiplication rules. So what we end up with is -6 a to the 6th b, because remember when you multiply the variables with exponents, you're really adding, minus 12 a to the 4th b to the 3rd, plus 10 a to the 3rd b to the 4th. None of them are like terms. That is your final answer. You can't do anything with that. Any questions on that? When it asks you to evaluate based off the value of certain variables, I will tell you what I would recommend that you do. I would not recommend, because you can basically type this whole thing into the calculator, but don't do that. And the reason I tell you that is if you make a mistake, you end up having to like start all the way over again. I usually go 1 term at a time. I will do this term minus this term plus this term, and I will do those in the calculator. So the first term says it's -6a, but instead of a, I put parentheses and -1 to the 6th power times b, which is 3. And that is exactly what I type into the calculator. You notice the exponents need to go outside the parentheses. Your exponents need to go outside the parentheses when you type it in. This is 1, 3, -18. It should have been -18. Minus 12, -1 to the 4th, 3 to the 3rd power. That I'm going to go ahead and just type in. I'm sure you're right, but I'm just going to go ahead and say I'll just do it anyway. Thank you. And parentheses 3, close parentheses, caret 3. And it is 324. Yeah, minus 324. Okay, and then plus 10, -1 to the 3rd, 3 to the 4th, this is 81, 8, 10, negative, plus -810. And then when I add that up, I end up with -18 minus 324 plus -810, and I end up with -1,152. I would definitely know how to do that. Okay? Definitely know how to do that. Any questions on that? Cool. Number 3 says to simplify. So basically, we need to go one piece at a time. It is going to be this minus this. So we end up with 3x squared plus 4x. Now, when this was a quadratic, I told you to do it first and then to distribute your subtraction sign. This is not a quadratic. This is just distribution. So what I would really do is I would distribute this to both your numbers. And you end up with minus 10x squared plus 5x. I have like terms here and here, which is -7x squared, like term, plus 9x, and I am done. -7x squared plus 9x. Spencer?
Why don't we separate them?
What do you mean?
Like, so where it's 3x squared plus 4x, and then
You could. Here's the way it would look if you did that. If you did it that way, you would have had 3x squared plus 4x, right? Minus 5x times 2x is 10x squared, and 5x times negative 1 is minus 5x. Then when you distributed your negative, you would have ended up with that anyway.
So, since it's a negative 5x, it's not a multiplication problem?
No, what I'm saying is the way it works, PEMDAS rules, right? The PEMDAS rules. If I had had a squared here, I would have to do this first. There wasn't any such thing. So there was no exponent to do. So I could go straight to multiplication. When I just multiplied this, I made that a negative. You didn't have to. You could have done what I just showed you and then distributed your negative. Either way it works.
Yeah, but the subtraction sign in front of the 5 makes it subtraction.
Yes. Yeah. So like on this number 4, you distribute here and here, which gives you 6a to the 4th minus 8a to the 3rd, right? Now, you can go ahead and either do it like this, do this, and then subtract the whole thing, which means you have to distribute a subtraction sign, or what I would probably do instead, not even probably, what I would definitely do instead is I would simply distribute this to both of these guys, which makes it minus 5a to the 3rd minus 10a squared. And then when I get my like terms, I end up with 6a to the 4th, like term minus 13a to the 3rd minus 10a squared. That's your answer. Okay? Couple more. Number 5 says use the function to fill in the blanks below. What should you do first? Put it into y equals just like this. Because if you can do that, it doesn't work. But I'm saying if you were to put this into y equals, you could go to the table and probably, and many times, not all at the time, but many times, find the vertex right away. Okay? You could also find the y-intercept. How do you find the y-intercept? X is 0. The y-intercept is where x is 0 in the table. Now, again, I make these, so, you know, this one doesn't work like that. But a lot of times they do. In fact, honestly, once you get outside of this school, almost every time they do. Yeah. So anyway, this one doesn't work, so we have to go ahead and distribute. So we end up with 15x minus 5x squared minus 3 plus x. That's doing the FOIL method. I just F-O-I-L. Now I put like terms. The x squared guy always has to come first, then the x guy, so plus 16x minus 3. This is my quadratic, right? And right off the bat, without doing anything, what do I know based on that quadratic? I know my y-intercept is at 0, negative 3. I know my y-intercept is at 0, negative 3. Yep. Well, I'm saying, yeah. But I'm saying without even going to the table, you should know that. I also know it's very narrow and it faces down. Now, it faces down is an important thing. Why? Because it affects the range. The range is going to be all y values less than or equal to whatever the y value is of the vertex. So anyway, so we end up with negative b over 2 times a, which is negative 16 over 2 times negative 5, which ends up being 16 over 10, which simplifies to 8 over 5. 8 over 5 is my axis of symmetry, 8/5. And my vertex is at 8/5 something. Yeah, negative 5x squared plus 16x minus 3, second window, 8/5, second graph, arrow up 1 to make sure it's good to go. It is 9.8. That makes my domain all real numbers and my range all y values less than or equal to 9.8. Remember, the range and the axis of symmetry are based off of the vertex. Vertex is a pretty important thing to find. Any questions on that? And final. This, however, Spencer, right? This one we can't distribute this subtraction sign. We need to go ahead and do this and go ahead and do this. Okay? So what we end up with in this is 6x squared plus 3x minus 8x minus 4, which simplifies to 6x squared minus 5x minus 4. On this side, we end up with 4x squared minus 3x minus 16x plus 12. Please remember that plus on a negative times a negative at the end. Some of you made that mistake over and over on that test. So it simplifies to 4x squared minus 19x plus 12, and it's subtraction. It's this, you do that, so you end up with 6x squared minus 5x minus 4 minus 4x squared plus 19x minus 12. At this point, you're like hating me because you're like, oh my gosh, really? But now you're close because like term, 2x squared, like term plus 14x, and like term, minus 16. That's it.
Why is it? You got negative 5, negative 19, then you got
Negative 5 plus 19 is plus 14.
Yeah, but you have a negative 19 up there.
Because I'm distributing this subtraction to every number before I pull the parentheses. Okay, I'm going to give you about 6 minutes to use the answer key, then we'll come back and go over everything. One of the things on the review. Most of this, as you'll find, as you may have already found because when you're checking it, it's about organization and going step by step by step. And the minute you start not paying attention, you're going to make a dumb mistake. Okay? So let's start. Number 1 is negative 75x to the 4th. Number 2 is 12a to the 3rd minus 16a squared plus 28a. Number 3 is 2a squared plus 4ab plus 2b squared, and x squared minus y squared because it's simply difference of squares in reverse. Anybody need to see any of the ones? Brandon? Number 2. Brandon, what is 4a times 3a squared? 4 times 3? 12a times a squared? Done. Distribute it to the next set. 4 times 4 is 16. A times a is a squared. Done. Next set, 7. 7 times 4 is 28. The a doesn't disappear, so it's 28a. One piece at a time. Okay? One piece at a time. Number 5 is 20. Number 6 is 40. Number 7 is C. Go ahead, bud. Okay. 5. It says evaluate 4. So again, I say use the calculator. What you type into the calculator is 2 parentheses, negative 2, close your parentheses, and hit squared. It's just substitution. And when you do that, you end up with 8. Minus whatever this is. Well, 3ab is 3 times negative 2 times 4. It was negative 24. So it's 8 minus negative 24. Minus 12. And when you type into your calculator 8 minus negative 24 minus 12, you'll get 20. Because 8 minus negative 24 is 8 plus 24, which is 32. 32 minus 12 is 20. Okay? One step at a time. You've got to be methodical about this. Anybody else on any of these? All right, next page, number 8. Number 8 is x to the 3rd minus 6x squared y plus 12xy squared minus 8y to the 3rd. Yes or no? Okay, here we go. When you're doing anything to the 3rd power, you start with it to the 2nd power. So you start with x minus 2y times x minus 2y, and you can solve that any way you wish. I'm just going to FOIL it. X squared minus 2xy minus 2xy plus 4y squared. Now, always write them alphabetically. Always write your variables alphabetically so you can recognize that these are like terms. So you end up with x squared minus 4xy plus 4y squared. Now, that is just the first one squared. So you still have to do this times x minus 2y. And when you're going to do that, what did I say to use? Use the box method. Otherwise, it'll become a big nightmare. So I'm going to do my rectangle, split it in half and pieces, and I end up with x squared minus 4xy plus 4y squared and x minus 2y. Now it's set up, and I just have to multiply carefully. X times x squared is x to the third. This is negative 4x squared y. This is positive 4xy squared. Next line, negative 2x squared y, positive 8xy squared, negative 8y to the third. And now I start putting together like terms. This guy is all by himself, which is what we got there. When you add these up, you get negative 6x squared y. They're like terms. When you add these up, you get 12xy squared, and this is by itself there. One step at a time. And I will tell you, no kidding, this is exactly how I would have solved it if I was being tested, even today. I would have foiled the first set, and then I would have used box method on the second set, because otherwise it gets crazy. Okay? All right, number 9. I know the significance of number 9. Go home and ask your parents why I would have said number 9, number 9, number 9, number 9, number 9. See if your parents know why that is. Josh? No. What? You can, but that has nothing to do with why I said it. Okay. 9m squared minus 16. And number 10 is 8m squared minus 10mn plus 3n squared. Do you know another way to write m squared n? Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. See, if he'd have been smart and gone to school, he wouldn't have had to just spell it E-M-I-N-E-M. That's stupid. He could have been this dude. Shut up. No, he's not. He's living in a trailer again. Yeah. Palms are sweaty. Okay, here we go. Anybody need to see 9 or 10? Okay, 10. 10, here, let me tell you what, by the way, if you see number 10 on the test, skip it until the end of the test. This is a number 3 question, because it's not that it's hard, but this is a number 3 question because you know it's going to take you a long time to get there. Because I've talked at every test about the fact that when you read a test question, you should judge that question as a 1, 2, or 3. 1, stupid easy. 2, and 3, oh my gosh. This is an oh my gosh question, not because it's difficult, because it's going to take you a lot of work. So here we go. We're going to do this one first. So it's 3m minus 2n times 3m minus 2n. And when we get it all together, it ends up being 9m squared minus 6mn minus 6mn plus 4n squared. When we simplify, we end up with 9m squared minus 12mn plus 4n squared. That's the first one. The second one is m minus n times m minus n, which gives you m squared minus mn plus n squared, which is m squared minus 2mn plus n squared. This is where it's important, Spencer, that you put this in parentheses and it's subtraction, because you're going to distribute the subtraction to all your terms before you put them all together. So you have 9m squared minus 12mn plus 4n squared minus m squared plus 2mn minus n squared. Now like terms. There and there gets you your 8m squared. This and this gets you minus 10mn. And this gets you plus 3n squared. That's your answer. Because I want to see that you can do all the work. Yes, I am. Which is why I didn't say anything just then. Number 11. 2x squared plus 5x plus 13. Make sure, by the way, make sure you're careful about perimeter versus area. Okay? Number 12 is 0, negative 20. The axis of symmetry is x equals negative 11, 6. Hunter, all I got to do is call somebody. You sure? Okay. Domain is all real numbers, and the range are all y values greater than or equal to negative 30.08. I need to see either of those. Okay. Okay. Number 13, here we go. Difference of squares where you can't take a GCF out. So you end up with 6x plus 7, 6x minus 7. This is prime. This is 4x plus 1, 4x minus 1. Difference of squares. Shh, wait, Daniel. Thank you. What? No, it's prime because there's an addition sign. Here? Well, 1 is a perfect square. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 is the first perfect square in the list. Okay? Number 16. Uh-huh. I will once we're done. Okay? Number 16 is 3/5, 4/5, or 0.6, 0.8. What? Because that's his name. Oh, is it? Okay, I don't care. It still got his attention. Okay. Any questions on any of these? Your class average was in the C's, so perhaps you should pay attention. Thank you. Any questions on these? Okay. 17 is D. 18 is x squared plus 5.5x minus 3. Either of these. Hunter, which one? 17 first. If y'all remember back to systems, I told you with systems that your goal is to take a 2-variable equation and make it a 1-variable equation because you can't solve a 2-variable equation. These types of statements do exactly that because instead of labeling your window as the length and the width or a rectangle as length and width, you end up with width and width plus 5 because it says the length is 5 feet longer than the width. And that's a very important step because now it makes it a solvable equation because you only have one variable. And it tells you that the area is 36. Well, to find the area, it's length times width. So what you have is W times W plus 5 equals 36. That's your area formula. Area equals length times width. Now you distribute. So you distribute the W to both, and you end up with W squared plus 5W equals 36. Then you look at your answer choices and realize they're all set up exactly the same way, where they're all equal to 0. So you need this to be 0. So you subtract 36 from both sides, which gives you W squared plus 5W minus 36 equals 0, which gives you your right answer. You let the answer choices kind of guide you a little bit towards the end. Okay? Any questions on this? Okay. Basically, you're going to do this times this, and then divide every single term by 2. Area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. The easiest thing to do is to simply do x plus 6 times 2x minus 1. You FOIL it, you get 2x squared minus 1x plus 12x minus 6, which simplifies to 2x squared plus 11x minus 6. And if you'll notice in the answer choice, each coefficient is half because it's 1/2 base times height. Logan, what was your question? That's it. Okay. Number 19, almost done. Number 19 is 10x squared plus 4x minus 34. Any questions on that one? Follow the key and see if you can figure out where that happened. Number 20. By the way, if you haven't figured it out, there are two ways to do these tile problems. One is you just do the GCF like you know. What's the GCF of these three terms? X. GCF of these three terms? No, it's not. The last one doesn't have an X. It's 1, and then 1, and then 1. And then when you find the GCF of these guys, you end up with X, X, and 1, which gives you 2x plus 1 times x plus 3. But I will also tell you, if you converted this to the box, you could, because what you have is 2x squared, 1x, 6x, and 3. You could have done that too. Do what? Yeah, it's a lot like that too. Okay? Number 21. Number 21 is 4w plus 6. If I need to see that one's kind of tough. Okay, so let me just show you what you should do. Here's what I do. When you're finding the area of a triangle, I do the length, I do base times height, and then divide everything by 2. When you get the area of a triangle in one side, let me show you what happens. You end up with the formula area equals 1/2 base times height. Agreed? If you'll remember back to Unit 2, we did this thing called solving literal equations, where I gave you like I equals PRT, and I said solve for R, and you had to move everything over, and y'all were like, why are we doing this? This is stupid. Here's why. If it's asking you to find the height in a triangle formula, the very first thing I do is multiply the entire formula by 2. And I'll show you what that does. It gives you 2 times the area equals base times height. It gets rid of the fraction. And then to solve for the height, what do I have to do to both sides? Divide by the base. So what I really end up with is 2 times the area divided by the base equals the height. And I'll show you why this is smart to do. Because now all I have to do is plug in what they gave me. 2 times this is 12w squared minus 14w minus 48. I just multiplied everything by 2. Divided by the base, which is 3w minus 8. And I showed y'all the other day, all you have to do now is fill in your box. 12w squared minus 48, 3w minus 8, and work your way backwards. This times what gets you that? 4w. This times what gets you that? Plus 6. Oh, that's your answer. That's why we teach you to manipulate equations, because sometimes it comes in handy. Logan? Nope. Doesn't. Last one. Number 22 is 3x squared minus 27y squared. I thought that one was actually pretty easy. Because it's simply this times itself minus this times itself. Okay, I'll say this, then you can chill. The thing that scares me about reviews on a Friday, if you walk in here Monday cold, you'll probably get the same outcome you got before. Sit down on Sunday evening and look over your review for 30 minutes. Watch this video that'll be on YouTube. It's going to be 26 minutes, Unit 8, U8D14 review. But kiddos, make sure you don't walk in here cold to take this test, please. Okay? Thank you. Okay?